Welcome to the Permission Slip podcast, where I, empowerment coach, mindset expert, and holistic nutritionist Carmen Oling, share with you the tools, conversations, and resources you need to write your own permission slip, take massive action, and become obsessed with your own life. Let's get started. Miss Rachel Luna, I want to have the audience get to know you a little bit. So I have a few quick questions I'd love for you to answer. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Ready. Okay. Where did you grow up?
New York City.
Okay. What is one thing that you learned from your childhood or teenage years that helped build you today?
Oh gosh, that's so interesting because I feel like my childhood and my teenage years were so trauma laced that I don't remember much. So to be able to say, like, I think I just learned resilience. I learned how to survive despite my circumstances, my situations, and my limitations. And I learned to hold on to hope and faith beyond anything.
I love that. And then where do you live now? And give us a quick snapshot of your family.
I live in Jacksonville, Florida, with my husband and our two daughters, Valentina and Isabella.
Great. Florida over here as well. So I love that. I love to cook at home and I love all things food. So can you share with me your favorite meal to cook at home?
Yes. Okay. So sad. It is a meal that I cannot eat anymore because I'm now vegan. I'm a breast cancer survivor. And I'm vegan, but I'm Puerto Rican. My favorite meal to cook is pernil, which is, or un lechon asado, which is a roasted pork. It's like the picnic shoulder, they call it, but you put it in the oven and then it gets this like crackling skin and like you marinate it for a day. It's just...
I'm sad that you're vegan with how you're explaining this.
Yes. And then I make arroz con gandules, which is rice with pigeon peas on the side and una ensalada de papa with a potato salad. Like this is a full meal. And then if you really want to go extra, you make pasteles, right? De masa, which are kind of like a tamal, like a Puerto Rican style, but it's made with green banana.
So yummy. I'm coming for dinner, even if you're vegan.
I love to cook for people meat, but I
love that so much.
So can you eat any of it? Or just not the pork portion? No.
So I do make the rice for myself. I use all organic ingredients. Okay, the traditional rice, no, because we use the bacon, the lard, the hand lard for the rice. But I make myself my own little clean pot version.
I like it.
So
I do stuff like that all the time too. So make my Carmen version of whatever anybody else is eating. So I love that. So favorite book, not the Bible or not your own?
Okay, that is, again, why are you asking all these hard questions? Because
I'm so glad you went first.
I love books. Like I love the smell of books. So if I have to say my favorite inspiring read, is Life's Golden Ticket by Brendan Burchard. I read it on the beach many years ago in a season of my life and business where I just didn't feel super confident in what I was doing or where I was headed. And that book just inspired me so much. I have to do 3. I can't do 1 because like there's 3 little wickets, right? 4 Agreements, right? Because that one just changes how you show up. And then my most recent, there's like 5. Okay, but no, because Entrepreneurs, this is an entrepreneurial read. Super tactical is Buy Back Your Time by my friend Dan Martell. I am really enjoying that book because it really helps you think about time in such a different perspective. And I think it's a subject that we're not talking about enough.
I'm glad that you shared that because you have already shared that with me once in January and I didn't write it down and then I forgot to ask you again. So I'm excited to get that one in my cart and start reading it.
Yes.
Let's see. Tell us, what is your favorite daily ritual that really fills your soul?
Journaling.
Love that. And what are you most excited about in life right now?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, following the heels of the book, I had gotten some gentle nudges and whispers from God. I am really excited about a new pivot that I've made in my business. So, not focusing on teaching journaling anymore and actually moving into a complete, like a more educational space. And I'll just leave it at that for now because it's still in its infancy. But what excites me the most is that I've made this decision, this pivot, even though there's a lot of uncertainty. So to make that decision, I had to cut off all of my recurring revenue, right? That decision cut all of my recurring revenue over the lifetime of the course that I just shut down. That's millions of dollars. And to step out on faith and take this new thing. And that is like exhilarating. It's like, ooh, what's going to happen? I don't know, but it's going to be fun. And so.
Yeah, it is going to be fun. That's something that I am hearing loud and clear this year is like, how much fun can you have this year? Even in everyday tasks and everything that you're doing, how much fun can you have? And I love that you shared that because our whole theme of this roundtable conversation is living in full belief. So I couldn't have planned that any better. So thank you for your quick questions. We'll turn it over to Tamra. And where did you grow up?
I'm born and raised and still living and dwelling with my own kiddos in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Tell us one thing that you learned from your childhood or teenage years that helped build you today.
Man, how good was Rachel's? I was immediately like, okay, we're besties because she went right for the vulnerable, like open up the book, open up the covers, right? There's so much symmetry in that answer, but the question is the favorite. What was the specific question?
Yeah, one thing you learned that helped build you today.
Oh man, my speaking. My mom threw me on a platform when I was really little. We would have to do book reports. And when we did our book reports, we would have to write them out. And then we would stand on our podium or platform, aka our fireplace mantle. And we would stand there and have to project and share them to our entire family or anybody who was over visiting. And so I immediately learned to be not afraid of the one thing that my mom was really afraid of, which was public speaking.
Wow, what an intentional practice that she did for you.
Yeah, incredible.
How amazing. What did you think at the time?
I loved it because I loved being center of attention. My brother and sister, they're like, this is terrible. Do I have to? Right. But they're actually incredible speakers now. So, I mean, it was fun. I loved it. I already was like, had microphones on kid talk shows and different things in my community. But yeah, it was such a practice of like being able to enunciate and project and eye contact and like the theatrics behind it, which is I like to do more than just like, give me a microphone, let me talk. I love the theatrics of speaking.
I love that so much. My best friend growing up, her mom would have her do her words, which was basically her mom would write down words. She'd have to look them up in the dictionary and then she'd have to write them out in sentences. And she was like, oh, I have to do my words before I can go out and play, you know? And I was always like, I kind of wanted to, like, I wanted that structure.
I want to write words. Yeah.
But she's such a gifted writer. She's written books now. So, wow. Yeah. How amazing.
That's really cool. And I think that's where like, I don't know when this is launching, but we're in the month of May and right now, and there's Mother's Day, right? It's kind of in the midst. And so just an ode to the mamas out there, right? You're not just a mom. You really instill legacy and generational gifts in the midst of what can sometimes be trauma too. Right, Rachel? We know there's the both and.
So beautiful. And this is going to come out right after Mother's Day. Yay. So perfect. So perfect. So tell us, what is a meal that you love to cook at home? I
actually like to eat. I don't really love to cook.
Oh, okay.
So I'll tell you, my husband is an amazing chef. So I married up in that way. And my favorite thing that he cooks is anything on the green egg. So we do a lot of wholesome, whole cooking as well, though we are not vegan. I did that for a month. And so we get a lot of like bison is probably one of my favorite things that he cooks for us. Anything bison and veggies. I'm like, bring it on. All the veggies, all the bison.
I love that. And share with us what the green egg is for those of us that do not know.
So it's a really cool grill that can also be a smoker. And it literally looks like a giant egg in your backyard and it's green. So might look like an eyesore, but we have this beautiful outdoor kitchen that my husband designed. And so it sits inside of it and he can put some cool logs that are like flavored logs inside rather than just the charcoal. It's so yummy. I love it.
Yeah, I love that. I only know that from the Rachel Ray show because Rachel Ray is another one of my mentors, even though she does not know. And I
one day
her on her show. Yes, but that's another story. So tell us your favorite book, or if you want to give your top 3, you could do that as well.
I mean, you can see behind me that is literally like a snapshot of the bookshelves that are like everywhere in my home. I would say one of my favorite, similar to the element of speaking in theatrics, was Matthew McConaughey's Greenlight book. I really loved, I listened to the Audible version of it, which is also one of my favorite ways to consume books. And his voice, obviously, just like, come on, ladies, his voice is amazing. But the way that he wrote that book, because I'm a publisher, I am very much looking through the lens of what's different, right? What are you doing that is showcasing who you are? He does this thing in the middle where like we'd be talking and he'd be like, bumper sticker, and he would stop and then he would say whatever the next concept is. So Greenlight's from that lens, and then from like a trajectory lens, what inspired me to step into what I'm doing now in so many different ways was my first book that I read after I had 2 kiddos, because I was in the throes of motherhood and entrepreneurship. I took a weekend away by myself, and my kids were under the age of 2 at the time, and I read Present Over Perfect. And I felt like I wrote it. As I was sitting there reading it, I was in the hotel and I was just like weeping, thinking, this is my life. And so I really encourage people, especially women, who are just on that trajectory path, whatever it is, whatever that title is, whether it's mom, wife, entrepreneur, insert hustler, whatever you want to be called, and understanding that we don't have to work on our perfection. Perfection comes in the becoming process. And so it really is the piece of being present is so much better than being perfect.
Thank you for sharing that. Aren't those the best books though? Where you're like, wow, I just can see myself in every single word.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love
and
that.
I almost was like, I feel like my book was already written, so I shouldn't write it. And I think that a lot of people feel that way when they read something where they're like, well, you're reading a mental health book and you've walked through a mental health crisis. You're reading a book around sexual trauma or kid like trauma from when you were young, whatever that is. And you're like, man, my story's already out there. But I really encourage people to, that's why the podcasts are so incredible, is like speak out, speak up, and start writing, because there's so much more to it. And your story is your story. And so no one can say it just like you will.
Thank you. That was for me, by the way.
Come on, let's go. That. Come on.
I received that. How about a ritual that fills your soul?
Oh gosh, my coffee Bible fire time every morning. It's the best thing. It's the best way. In order for us to feed, and I know that's what we do all the time, is we fuel other people. We have to be fed first.
Mm-hmm. Tell us your coffee. Is there a certain
a mushroom coffee? Yeah,
Four
Sigma. Yeah, Four Sigma or Laird Coffee are the 2 brands that I love, and they're mushroom. So it's got lion's mane inside of it, what helps from an area of clarity and focus. And I get the jitters already super easy, and so I can only have 1, maybe 2 cups. And if I have a second cup, it has to be before 9 a.m. So all my like latte afternoon friends who are like, let's go get a coffee, I'm like, I'll take a tea, because I already have enough energy, but my body can't handle it. So I love mushroom coffee for that reason.
Thank you for sharing. I'm an organic purity coffee girl, which I love.
Ooh,
I forget that when I go out that I need to like not drink as much, because I'm like, oh my gosh, what's happening right now? Yeah.
Your heart palpitates. It's crazy. It's nuts. Have you tried mud water?
I have. Yeah, I have it. Yeah.
I don't like it. Do you like it?
It's okay. I thought I was going to be more of a fan, but
yeah.
I mean,
Rachel, I'm curious. Are you a coffee drinker?
No.
Okay. I knew you weren't. I had to ask.
I love coffee, but I don't drink it because for like gut healing purposes, but I do coffee enemas every single day, and I love those.
What? This is news. Can we go there? I've never heard of this.
Yeah, we'll talk about that some other time.
She said no. Okay, that's what we're talking about when we turn off the record.
No, but I openly talk about it. But it's
that's
like
crazy. Okay, well,
really good, and Google it, everyone that's listening.
That's crazy. Okay, I'm in. I'm so in.
So Rachel can come talk about it on your podcast.
Okay, deal.
How about that?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Okay, so last thing for you for right now is, what are you most excited about right now in life?
Oh my goodness. It would have to be the publishing side of our company, and that being infused with the nonprofit work that we're doing. I love it. It really takes you outside of yourself and into other people's stories and lives.
I love that. I think we'll probably hear a little bit more about that. So I'm excited for that. So let's dive into our theme for today a little bit more, and living in full belief. And Rachel, I want to hear from you first, because this first question is really about something that I was writing in my journal and that I uncovered earlier in the year, that I wasn't fully believing that my dreams are possible for me. And that was like, oh, wow, which is holding me back from like taking this action and this whole idea of radical self-honesty for myself. And then I go and I put myself in a room of people that I didn't really know. So Brooke Hemingway's event, and guess who's speaking? And it's Rachel. And guess what she's speaking about? Belief, and like living in full belief. And I chatted with you about it, and you mentioned that your word for the year was believe. Am I getting this correct? Could you share a little bit about why you picked that word for the year?
I'm getting the chills. It's so synergistic that I just got off of a call, and I'll answer your question in a second, but this is so on T. I was on a call with a coach and a colleague of mine. We're both being coached by the same person. And on that call, I was sharing this next thing. And he was just like, well, but this, but that, like all the reasons why it wasn't going to work, lovingly, from a great place, like the best interest. I know he cares about me. I know he wants the best for me. That wasn't it. This is what I said to my friend. I said, I'm actually glad I got on that call. This was just another example of me knowing what I want and a coach trying to tell me why it wouldn't work. Because back when I first started my business a decade ago, I hired a coach, and she said to me, no one's going to be interested in that. It's not good enough. Like she basically just crushed my dreams. Then the coach I hired after that, I said to me, you can't sell confidence. At the time, I wanted to do a course called Confident Entrepreneur Academy. And I said, but I did. I just had a $52,000 launch. And he was like, yeah, that's like a fluke. No one's going to buy that. You can't sell. I mean, so it was like repeatedly. Then I hired another coach. And that coach was like, you don't do this, you don't do that, you need to do this. And it was like all this telling me what I needed to do, but no one was really hearing what God was telling me to do. So I'm a woman of faith. And I had to start believing, like, God be true and every man be a liar, which is biblical, right? And so if a human being is telling you what's right or wrong, but it's not resonating with you, or you got a different message, how do you know who to trust? So this is what I said to my friend. I said, the difference between then and now, I believe in myself more than I believe in his experience. And so last year, there were some goals that I had set for myself, financial goals, goals around my book, but towards the end of the year, I began losing belief in myself. I never lost faith in the possibility. I never lost faith that God could do it, but I totally did not have the belief that God could and would do it through me. That me as the mouthpiece, as the vessel, would move the mountain ahead. And it derailed my progress. And I was not surprised when I didn't hit the milestones. We still, by the way, we hit great milestones with this book launch, but it was not anywhere near what I knew I could have done if I would have just freaking believed. And so I said, I am not going to do that again. I'm going to come into 2023. My word is believe. I actually have a believe ring, but I left it at my mom's house. So waiting for her to ship it back to me. So shout out to Leah Valencia Key, because she has a beautiful line of jewelry around belief. And I just decided, look, I teach confidence and faith all day, every day. In order to have faith, you first must believe. And you can believe in your coaches and all this external things. You can believe in the Bible, you can believe in God, but if you don't believe in yourself as the vessel, you're going to stall. So it's a mindset shift and it's a choice. And Carmen, you've heard me say this before, make a decision and make it work.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. So to follow that up, what did you do to strengthen your belief that it could be done through you?
Well, I have a really good, strong journaling practice. I have a prayer closet now. I had heard about these prayer closet things for years. And I was like, what does that even look like? I was YouTubing, like, what does a prayer
I
closet
just watched War Room. It's so good.
like I didn't know. And so for anybody listening, it's literally the back of my closet. I put up some little fun sparkly lights. I threw down a blanket. I made it like a little cozy place, and it's my little sanctuary to have quiet time. I do begin with reading a passage from the Bible. I'm reading the 1-year Bible. And I do want to take a moment in case there's someone listening that's like, man, these girls are doing a lot of God talk and Bible talk, and I'm not about the Bible. If that's not your cup of tea, figure out what is your cup of tea to get into your quiet space. But because you asked me what I do, this is what I do. Mm-hmm. I read from the Bible and then I journal. I question my beliefs. So I talk about this thing called going to bat for yourself. It's belief audit time. And this is where you're going to audit your beliefs. And how do we do this? We just think, what have I been thinking about concerning my dream, concerning my goal, this thing that you want to do, Carmen, right? Like, this is what I want to do. What do I think about that? What do I think of me as the vessel? What do I think of me as the front runner? And without judgment, write those thoughts down. Sometimes they will scare you. Sometimes you're like, oh no, I don't want to even write that down, because if I write it down, then it must be true. If you write it down, it doesn't mean it's true. It's just a thought. And then from there, you can challenge the thought and choose a new, more empowering belief.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate it. Such a tactical way to be able to go about it. And thank you for the prayer closet as well, because I hear people talk about that as well. And I was like, is that really just like in their closet? I'm not sure. And talking about God and talking about the Bible, totally open here. Something we talk about on the podcast is creating a spiritual relationship of your own understanding that's meaningful to yourself. And so that's what I love to talk to people about, and then share my own experience too. And everybody's really open to that. So thank you for doing that. So let me shift it over to you, Tamra, and say, where was a time that maybe you weren't operating in full belief? And how did you come back into agreement with that?
You know, I read this on the prep for this call, and I was simmering with myself, and I'll be totally transparent that it's wave of emotions every single day. If there is somebody who's every day their decisive step is I've got this, I'm running, I want to meet them, because I think the way that culture has shaped us, we're constantly in combative nature with our spirit, with our intuition, with discernment, with the Holy Spirit. And I don't want that to be the case. I want to constantly be able to raise my hand and be like, I've got this. I will act that way, which is why I love what Rachel said. You will look at me like she's the most confident person in the room. Well, that's because faith in action develops our belief. And I believe in creating those one strong, decisive steps every single day. But simultaneous, that does not mean when I get out of the boat every single morning that I'm I ain't going to look away or something's going to distract me. I have shiny light object syndrome. And so if something is shiny, literally, I will wear sparkles on stage for so many reasons, but I will look, I'm that's so pretty, right? And God's keep your eyes on me. I understand what you love, but I'm more radiant, right? And so you said that word radical, Carmen, and I honestly think it's radical obedience, that if we can steward radical obedience, then the things that we want, the ask, the hope, the desires are going to be ours. And so the wave of emotion of saying I don't got it today, or I don't think I'm capable of doing, I'm actually right? Because I cannot do it in my own strength. People call me an Energizer bunny, and they're like, when do you burn out? When do you stop? I'm around 8:30 p.m. every single night. Follow me around. It's a real thing. I literally fall asleep before my kids are out of the shower sometimes. So it's this knowing that I want to be open and transparent for people to realize that there's no perfect people here. And in that I guess, aggressive pursuit of joy is really what I look for. It's not success for me. It's that element of sustenance that I'm constantly pursuing. It doesn't look like what culture presents. It looks like what, for me, Christ presents. And that's a totally different thing from money, rich, fame to wealth and sustenance.
Thank you for that. Let's follow that up with you. You were talking about faith in action develops belief. So let's talk about perfectionism and getting ready to get ready to get ready to get ready and not taking action.
I like messy action. You can ask my team. They're like, they know they'll come to meetings after I've gone to like a mastermind event or a conference, and they hate that first meeting afterwards because they know that I'm about to shift something on them. And so my whole team, if they're used to change, and those who are not good at change don't stay on the team very often. And it's not to say that change is an essence of us shifting on our community. We're always in line with the mission, but I believe in evolution. So I'm like super pumped to see what Rachel does next, because that matters. It matters that she's super passionate about what she does. Sometimes we do something for a year and we're like, man, I've grown so much. This curriculum doesn't even match the new wisdom that I have. And so it's necessary for us to constantly be evolving and shifting and not doing the 360 where we feel like a crazy person on a rat wheel. But isn't that what repentance is? Constant 180s. And so we're constantly changing our mind. Oh, I learned something new from Carmen today. Oh, I'm going to change my mind. I no longer can drink bubbly. Okay. That happened right before this call. I'm like, no. And guess what I'm going to do after this call? I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to throw them all away. I'm going to make a 180 and I'm going to become something more. So if I want a belief in something, I have to be okay with what it looks like for me to do it imperfectly. And imperfection is our carnal nature, like literally the flesh in which we're in. We're imperfect beings, and yet we get to become Christ-like. I said this before. That's the pursuit. Anything of flesh is never going to satisfy you. And so when I shifted my business, and I'll be honest, I was not always in my faith. And so when we think about entrepreneurship and how do you blend those two things together, we're talking about messy action, and that collision of faith and business is where we dwell. I know we as women do. But I wasn't always there. I always was just like Sunday was Sunday, and I was there for an hour, and that's really all that mattered. And every other minute of the day was my entrepreneurial endeavors, was driving hard towards accolade, achievement, and perfection. And so I really wore this mask, like the Jim Carrey mask that was like suctioned to me pretty much every day of my life. I didn't even know what it felt like to be unmasked. And that led me to almost losing my marriage, almost losing my full access to my kiddos. I lost 2 businesses. And so I encourage people to realize, like, when they see us now, right? Look at me now, right? It's like, this wasn't always me. And yet the way that I can teach people now is like, let me show you what not to do because of the messy action I've taken since then. And messy action is vulnerability.
So many golden nuggets there to unpack. So I have a couple of notes written down from that, but I love how you said that this curriculum that I'm teaching or what I'm sharing right now is not matching my current level of wisdom. I think often we get so comfortable and rooted in what we're doing that we're scared to let that go. And what you talked about at the beginning, Rachel, was so beautiful, that you're putting this down and letting this go to be able to step into something new. And that can be really, really challenging, primarily because we can't yet see the end result. Mm-hmm. Rachel, can you speak to that a little bit? Like, I see this all the time where fear and doubt creep in, and then we just stay getting ready, or we stay in this idea of, I don't know, or I'm waiting for a sign or guidance, and we don't take any action.
Okay, well, let's first talk about the signs and the guidance, because I think that we, as a society, people are growing so codependent on these burning bush signs, and they're looking for double, triple, quadruple confirmation before they take action. And so for me, it just makes zero sense at all. One of the decisions that I made at the beginning of this year was that I was going to listen to the soft whispers and the gentle nudges from God. No more burning bush. The first confirmation is the last confirmation that I need to take action.
Go.
Right? And so how do you even do that? That is trust. That's faith. And I loved when Tamra said, I wrote it down, faith in action develops our belief, because that is how you also, action breeds confidence. So people say like, I need to feel more confident before I can take action. It's like, no, honey, you have to take action and then you'll feel more confident. So that's the first step, is just, look, one person touches and agrees with me, I'm off to the races. I will figure it out. And if I'm on the wrong direction, then I'll pivot. I was listening to Tony Robbins say something the other day. He said that one of the things that he attributes to his success is that when he sees an opportunity, he's quick to take it. And some of those opportunities don't work out at all, but a lot of them do. And so you have to be willing for things to not work out. And you have to be willing to say like, okay, I'm not emotionally attached to the outcome. I am committed to the journey. And then the other thing I say is that you can be confident of the destination and still be afraid of the journey.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. And we get these visions sometime about like where we're supposed to be. I'll hear a lot of people be like, I know I'm supposed to speak on stage in front of thousands, or I know I'm supposed to have, 20 books on my bookshelf that I wrote. They have all these things that they've imagined. I'm supposed to have all these kids, right? Whatever it is that they want. And they're not there. They haven't even started. And so to put a pen to a paper and start journaling, or to start actually turn on your actual phone that you have and just go live. When people say, I want to be a speaker, I'm like, cool, where do you speak? They're like, well, I don't. I'm like, well, no, you speak every single day. Are you speaking in your bathroom in the shower? Are you speaking in the mirror? Are you speaking at the coffee shop with your friends? Are you standing up on a little fireplace, right? We're always doing these things. And if we don't put into perception that we're actually already on the way to said vision, then we think we haven't started. But we've been being prepared. We've been equipped. And so the current notion, the current like conviction in your spirit that says, do the next thing, it's not you starting at ground zero. You've been doing it for a really long time. It's just your lens in which you think you haven't been doing it.
I love what you just said there, because it's something that I uncovered for myself. As I kept seeing distraction come in, like busy work or different things like that. And I wasn't doing as many of the needle moving activities on what I was being called to do. And what I realized around this whole idea of belief is that I was making myself insignificant, that my gifts and talents and expertise, I wasn't putting out there fully, like everyone else can have it, but maybe not me, is kind of like what I wasn't fully believing. And so that idea of insignificance, and how can I really step into the significance that is truly there. So what you just said was take action in small ways to build it into a larger way, like doing the live video. What are some other tactical things people could do to like get out of that cycle? Because it is a cycle that we have in our subconscious programming of fear and doubt, where we know that we are meant for this and we can talk about it. But then when it comes to actually taking action, are there any other tactical ideas maybe that you have, Rachel, around?
It's interesting because I've heard this from clients before, right? I don't believe it's possible for so-and-so, but it's not possible for me. Mm-hmm. And my practical thing is to get curious, because your curiosity will lead to your clarity. So why not you? Why is it what is so uniquely special about you that you can't do it, that it can't be for you? So I would first ask that question. And the thing that comes up for me when I hear someone say this, I ask, who said that you couldn't? What was the evidence? What evidence from the past are you trying to bring into the present? And can you leave the past in the past, right? Because this is what we do. We decide that we want to do something, and instead of focusing on the future and seeing like, okay, what does that look like in the future? How big could it be? What are the steps? We start looking in the past for evidence of like, well, so-and-so did that, and I did this, and that didn't work. And so you're bringing all this baggage. Leave that behind, which I know is difficult. I know it's easier said than done, but when the past tries to creep in, then you say, hold on now. I teach this too. Thank you for that unnecessary thought. So you say to the thought, hold on now, I don't need to think about that right now. What I need to do is, instead of looking behind me, I need to look forward and ask myself, this thing that I want to do, what could it look like at 10x capability? Mm-hmm. Because oh gosh, I'm getting the chills, because every time I think about this, I get passionately angry that we were not taught this enough. But here's the thing. We're not taught enough that when we're trying to achieve a small goal, there are 100 ways, right? There are 1 million ways to make $1 million in a year, right? How many ways can you make $1 million in a week? Because when you make the goal bigger, then there are fewer ways that it can happen. And what stops people, what holds them back from the unbelief, is that they can't even decide which direction to take first. There's too many paths to victory. Well, if you make it much bigger than yourself, much bigger than you can even, if you make it almost impossible, then the path to victory is like 1 or 2 ways. And then you just have to choose one of those and make that work.
And it's so much easier to be decisive.
Oh, 100%.
It's so good. And Rachel, that's actually like directly correlated to what I think people should do, is like, are you being about it as much as you're talking about it? And the being about it is the investments, right? Yes. Are you willing to put $1 towards that dream right now? Are you willing to put $10,000, $100,000, $1 million towards that dream? And this is where the faith in action creates belief, because so often people are like, oh, I have to make the money before I spend the money on this particular dream. I'm like, you just got your hair done, girl. Your nails are done. You just went shopping. I see your Gucci bag. I see all these things. And yet they're not willing to put it on their dream. Like, double down, triple down, 10x down on your dream, and see all the other little things that you think you need or want. First off, they go away, because like Rachel said, those dreams, those things that are a part of your identity, that's the becoming identity, who you're going to be, they're totally different than the things that you think are important now. And so I'll tell people often, I'll speak it out loud, because I think it's important. Like, I'm like, we're going to have a private jet. And people are like, that is so insane. You don't need that. That's bougie. That's all for the look or the glitz or the glam. And I'm like, whoa, you haven't even asked me what I'm going to do with my private jet. How do you know I'm not going to lease it to other people? How do you know I'm not going to take it to missions in other countries with all the people that are a part of our tribe? How do you know what my private jet is for or not for? What if my private jet is a gift? What if it's been gifted to me to take all those people around? So I don't want to buy a private jet. I'm going to own a private jet because someone's going to give it to me.
Tamra, I gotta just say, I love that you said that, because it makes me think of when Puerto Rico had one of their giant hurricanes. Bethany Franco was one of the first people, boots on the ground, because she had her own plane and she was sending relief to people. And then I just also want to give a practical example of what you just said. I just had this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. She's going to an event. The ticket for the event is $700. And her girlfriend was like, I want to go too, but I can't afford the ticket. And she was like, could I just ride with you guys and I'll hang around the hotel and whatever? Made no sense. She's going to go get a massage at that hotel, which is like $300. She's going to have lunch, which is probably going to be like, at the end of the day, she's probably going to spend about $500-600. She should have just spent the $700. She could have gone to the event and had this growth experience. But we start to think the brain is just the way the brain is. Yep. I'm going to get more things. I'm going to get more bang for my buck, because instead of just sitting in this one group or this one container, this one room, and by the way, it's so important to get in the room because you do not know who you are sitting next to. People get very enamored with the speakers on stage. And I say, look at who's sitting next to you. Because one time I was sitting next to Chris Carr and Darren Hardy, who flanked. They were not the speakers. And I ended up having tea with Chris Carr, right? And so think about the opportunity cost and take action in the thing that's going to give you the best return on not today, on 10 years from now.
And that's where that belief has to come into store with what it is that vision is holding tight to. Another part of vision casting and like dream working or whatever that is, a lot of people think that their dream has been done, similar to how I was saying the book has already been written. And if you start asking people the thing that has been put on your heart, most people are going to put one eyebrow up. They're going to be like, you're crazy, right? And I tell that even to my own husband, who like, he is the biggest support system that I have. He's one of my biggest entrepreneurial mentors. He's several years ahead of me in the growth of his company. And so he's constantly giving me insight and wisdom in that regard. But I think about the fact that he doesn't really know where I'm going. He's never seen my vision, but I believe it's so big and I move at such a decisive speed that he's like, okay, I'm coming, right? And so you're the only one that thinks that big. You're the only one that has that crazy dream or has the idea of putting all these different passions and problems that you've walked through into the way that you show up for other people. No one else has that imprint, only you.
Yeah.
So 3 things that we're getting close to the end of our time, but I know this is so good. I feel like we're going to have to do a part 2. So 3 things that came up was one thing that you said earlier, Tamra, was around how you were operating in this way, looking for outward acceptance and approval, like operating based on what people were telling you you're good at, your talents, versus maybe the gifts that you really truly had inside. Do you have any tidbit on that you could share on how to move from that outward acceptance and the need for the shiny gold star and the approval to operating from a place of impact?
Yeah, I'll give you 3 kind of like play on words. I love words. One would be stop focusing on the external, focus on the internal and the eternal, and the external will come. 2 is from my pastor, Pastor Anthony. I have multiple pastors. He's one of them. He said, we're so fixated as a society on validation and being validated versus value. And validation is dated value. So if we're focused on eternity, we should be focused on our intrinsic value rather than the validation from other people or even the validation that we can give or not give ourselves.
Thank you. Wow. We're going to have to rewind that and play that again. I know. I'll have to get that back.
I'm taking notes on a receipt. Okay. This show is that good. I'm like, what do I have around me? I have a paper towel, but the receipt one. It's so good.
Rachel, what do you think?
Well, because I feel like you're just pointing back to my book. So like plug it up.
Let's go. Permission to offend.
So one of the sections I talk about is getting sober from validation addiction. And instead of seeking external validation, I say, why don't you look for verification? Because validation is an emotional need and verification is an analytical process. When we ask for validation, when we're looking for validation, what we really want is to be told that we are right and correct and good. And that doesn't always serve us. And so if I say to you, read my book and tell me what you think, obviously, I only want to hear you say it's really, really good. Great. Why did New York Times pick it up? Right? That's what I want to hear as the author of my baby. However, when I was writing it and I was sending out chapters here and there to some of my test readers, that was never the question that we sent out. I sent out a sheet and it had specific questions. Did the title grab you? Did the first paragraph hook you in? Where did you lose interest in the story? What could I have done, if anything, to make you take action on the exercises? Right? Because now with this, there's no, it's good or bad. It's like, this is what you get to work on. This is what is working. And this is where you can improve. And once you have that takes away all of the, is it good or not? Because it doesn't matter if it's good or not. It's just, is it effective?
I love that so much. It's just this whole idea of feedback is just information and it doesn't mean anything about you.
Yeah.
And or the idea of not being personally attached to certain outcomes, and how that can affect you, because I think that can really affect belief too. If we get so personally attached to a certain outcome and we don't get it, then we might say it's not for me, or I'm not the one, and we might give up on the thing that we're really meant to be doing. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Rachel, when you were talking, I was thinking you need to coach your coach. Because that's really good. Just in the understanding of like, I'm not actually looking for validation on my idea. I'm actually looking for verification. Where are the pitfalls that could potentially happen? Because this is where I'm going. This is what I see. Help me develop the plan associated to that rather than to deter me from activating.
Well, actually, Tamra, as he was talking, I had to bite my tongue. Typically, I don't. Typically, I say what I'm thinking and I say what I mean. But I didn't have time to coach him. And also, like, I thought to myself, like, am I going to send you an invoice after this? No, I'm not. I almost said, like, it's clear you haven't read my book. Because if you had read my book, you'd already know everything you're saying to me is like the antithesis of my philosophy. But okay.
So good. I can't wait. I'm going to buy it right after we get off because I don't have it.
Speaking of books, I have a takeaway I want to share from each of your books. And then I would love for you to just have some, everybody can have some little inner insight from the author and my takeaway. So I will start with Rachel's Permission to Offend. All right, here we are, and we are on page 128.
Yeah, I'm turning with you, 128.
128. Okay, so I love this so much, and we've talked about it a little bit, but well, it's simple. You raise your offense capacity quotient, or OCQ. The higher your OCQ, the easier it is to move forward in faith and freedom. I knew my own OCQ had increased when I shared a post on social media expressing my opinion on the interchangeability of the words God and universe. Up until that point, I would frequently say God, universe, source, or whatever you want to call it. But in my heart, it felt like a betrayal of my beliefs and my God. So I did it. I wrote a post with my opinion and belief that God had created the universe and the two were not interchangeable. At least one person I knew would be pissed at me and unfollow me. Sure enough, 500 people unfollowed me within the first hour. And I'll just kind of stop there. But I thought that was so powerful. Just showing us an example of speaking your authentic truth in your authentic voice and knowing that your messages will meet the right people.
Yes. And also, I've been pissing people off ever since, and it's been fantastic because I am just honoring what is true for me. And here's the distinction, right? So let's be clear. This is not about intentionally pissing people off or trying to like agitate problems, but it's just about knowing what you value and what you believe in. Are you willing to take a stand for what you value and what you believe? Now, actually, I want to give a different example if I can, Carmen, because
please, go ahead. Yes, please.
This is such an extreme example, in my opinion, because the average person isn't out there putting things on social media that are going to be quote unquote offensive, right? When I talk about raising your offense capacity quotient, it's even in seemingly small things. So for example, I just had a birthday this week on Tuesday, and
happy birthday.
Thank you very much. My sisters, I have 3 sisters, not one of them called me or texted me for my birthday. And I didn't even think about it, honestly. So I'm sitting, every night my daughter and I play a card game. And I realized, I said, oh, do you know what I just realized? She said, what, mommy? I said, none of your aunts called me. None of my sisters called me for my birthday. And I said, huh. And she goes, oh. And I said, but you know what? It doesn't even bother me. Like, it's totally, I know they love me. Maybe they got busy. I mean, maybe their days are running together. Maybe they're depressed. Maybe they're sick. Maybe they just don't feel well. They live on different time zones. And I said to her, I said, honey, the reason I'm telling you this is because I want you to remember this. There will be moments where people will forget to acknowledge you, where they will leave you in the DMs as seen. but they won't respond, or they'll leave you unread altogether. And you might start to make it mean all kinds of things. But if you can just stop that chatter and take a look around at what you do have and celebrate all the people that have responded to you and all the people that did wish me happy birthday, if you can be fulfilled with what you already have, you're not going to be worried about what you don't have or who didn't acknowledge you or what it means, because it means nothing except what you make it mean.
I love that so much.
Your offense capacity quotient. I was not offended. And guess what? Like at midnight, one texted me, the next day, the other texted me, legitimately thinking that the next day was my birthday.
They were thinking of you still. Look at that.
Who cares? Like, even if they didn't, one has yet to reach out, and it's fine. It doesn't mean anything.
I love that you say that. We say that often within our community, the permission slip community. Nothing has meaning until you place meaning upon it. And I know in your book, you talk about your experiences in your past, and all of that is what you can bring into today to make things mean things that are mainly meaningless, and they're just going to steal your inner peace. And I wanted to share with you, actually, the reason why I selected that is because a couple of years ago, I attended your event, Confidence Activated, and I really wanted to support, and I brought a couple of people, and I thought I was there in support. And it was just the event that I didn't know that I needed, because it gave me like this permission slip that somehow that I needed to speak my own authentic truth and start sharing more about my spirituality and what that meant to me. And I know that I came up to you and I shared that with you.
I remember that.
I said, thank you so much. But that's specifically why I shared that piece, because it was really deeply meaningful to me. That was like written for me in the book. So I appreciate that.
I'm going to cry. I have to give God the glory. Sometimes we're so afraid to do what is true and right for us because we don't want to offend people. And that's the wrong. I don't often use right or wrong, but that's such an unserving perspective, because when you are so afraid of offending one group of people, you limit your opportunity to serve and empower another group.
Mm-hmm. It's been very, very powerful in the women that I've coached and are within my community, just having that, what I call like that permission slip that I needed to like activate that part that was already within me. So thank you so much. Thank you. And now we have Always Becoming, which I'm excited about, and you've got it there. So, okay, I'm on page 140. Okay. And you tell us, the next piece of the puzzle I cannot place for you. It requires movement, awareness, mobility, and willingness. You have to act in order to see change. And your choice in action, or lack thereof, determines the positive or negative outcomes in your next situation and season. Its close parallel is the need for preparation in your intended choice. Action without preparation yields poor performance. It is a planned failure. There's no getting around it. And in the same breath, preparation with no action yields stagnant results, which result in less than hoped for circumstances. And without those two things, it results in less than hopeful circumstances. Then it further deepens that unbelief that you might have in yourself. And just remembering that it might not be like what you think it is, but you are being prepared for something. And I loved how you talked about while you're being prepared, you can still take action. Do you have any?
I feel like we talked about this already on the show. I'm like, this is awesome that you chose that.
Highlighted.
I'm like, that's, we literally already like messy action, faith in action is developing belief. I think the key piece that we maybe didn't talk about is the preparation piece to that, right? Because there is elements of preparation, and y'all, I don't like to be in preparation phase. Okay. I want the party to happen now. I wanted it to happen yesterday. So when I am preparing to host a conference, I'm like, man, I have the vision. I can feel like I'm already there. I know who's going to be in the room. God has already sealed that space. And yet I have to like call a food vendor. Like, boring, that stinks, right? But I get to meet someone. I have an opportunity to bring in a local vibe or a local chef, or think about how much those individual little steps actually compound to that event's momentum. And so there's going to be all these events. We have all these events that are coming in our life. Maybe it's a birthday. And all the time we're preparing. And so it's like getting fixed on the end solution. And then we get to the said scenario and we're like, whoa, this is not fulfilling. This isn't what I thought it was, right? I thought I was going to be a New York Times bestseller. I thought all these stories that we created, and that actually wasn't the plan. It doesn't mean we won't ever be. Doesn't mean you won't land the stage with the thousands of people. Doesn't mean that there won't be something else in the midst. But it's this knowing that you're not there yet. And if we come to things too soon, we end up destroying them anyway, because our character wasn't cultivated to hold said scenario. You see this with NFL players who get the lump sums of money, or the people who win the lottery who get lump sums of money. It's often finances are associated to it, but let's think about like Robin Williams. We perceive that he's the happiest man on earth and he gets all these things, and yet he ends up taking his life. There was some element of lack of fulfillment, lack of character that was never cultivated in the process. So preparation, again, is often intrinsic. We've got to be, Britney Spears, Rachel says in the chat. Yes, they're not prepared. And so I would rather be prepared than there.
Thank you so much for that.
Yes.
And both of your books are going to be in the show notes, so everybody can go over and grab a copy. I always say buy 2 copies, buy one for yourself and one for a friend, because you know that you're going to want to gift it to someone right away, or even read it together can be a great way to actually deepen meaningful relationships, because you can have conversations that are more than like complaining about your husband or the weather or whatever. You can actually talk about the book and see how much your relationship grows by
That's
just
good.
having this book in common. So as we wrap up here, I'll just ask each of you, like, any final words that you want to leave us with on building belief. And then I want you to share with us maybe something you have upcoming, or how we can contact you. What is the best way to be in person, or just be connected with you?
Okay, Rachel's putting me on the spot over here in the chat. I love chat during Zoom live podcasting, live shows. This is great. All right, I would say the thing I already told you kind of like what I'm most excited about right now, but the next time you can get in the room with me, go to my events page. I'm all the places all the time. This weekend we have a conference in Virginia Beach. A couple of weeks we're in Denver. The conference I'd love to invite you to, which is the one that we're hosting, would be the Founder Con, which is happening in Raleigh, North Carolina, November 10th and 11th. We are so excited to essentially bring to life what we're talking about right here. It's a faith and business collision conference. And so it's where we're actually igniting marketplace ministers to go out, whether or not they utilize their faith in the forefront of like sharing about Jesus or not, is totally up to them. But it's this understanding that our spirituality is not a segmentation of where we show up in business, especially Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And so creating that collision and that confidence connected to the collision so that people can go out and thrive in their whole self rather than a fragmented element of self. I hang out most on Instagram. So if you want to send me a DM, I love voice memos. I love to connect with the heart of a human rather than just the words that we can curate. And so I want to hear your energy. I want to know where you're at. I want to know what spoke to you about this podcast, because this was a really, really good one. Carmen, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for being here. And what about you, Rachel?
Well, I was taking notes because I'm like, oh yeah, I got to go see Tamra in person. Okay. Well, since you're already listening to a podcast, just go ahead and turn to the Permission to Offend podcast and subscribe to my show. That way we can stay connected there. I love hanging out on Instagram at Girl Confidence. And I actually have a couple of different things coming up, some book signings here in Florida, some speaking events. So I'll defer you back to rachelluna.com as well. And if you just want to get that ball rolling and get into my space right now, definitely grab a copy of my book, Permission to Offend. I know that if you read the introduction, it will grab you and keep you all the way through to the cover.
Thank you so much, which I would love to hear everyone's takeaways. So we'll be doing a giveaway. I'll be doing a giveaway. So I'll be sending out both of these books, not my copy, but a fresh copy. So if you tag all 3 of us on Instagram, all the info is in the show notes. We'll be doing a book giveaway, and we'll make sure to repost your takeaways. So hopefully we can all build belief in each other together. And that's what this is all about, uplifting each other together. So I'm so truly grateful for each of you and everything that you shared. And again, just your presence in this world, like lights each other up, like lights up so many people, shows us all what's possible in this world and helps build belief within ourselves. So thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Such a gift. Such a gift. So lovely meeting you, Rachel. Carmen,
Bye,
old
bye.
friends.